Yeah, so I did this book launch in Bristol, and we did these 2 extracts, and then, had some questions. It was all very nice. But I was a little bit frustrated because I don't think I really managed to communicate what I was trying to do. And I think when you write a book about, which is ostensibly about the climate crisis, a certain projection is put upon you, which is this sort of narrative we've had for the 30 years. And it's along the lines, as we all know, that, the main theme is the bad guys are the bad guys and they're really bad, so you should know they're bad, right? Those sort of books, and once we know the bad guys are bad, then we're all going to get our act together, which is, pure bollocks, obviously, but that's another story, really. And then the other narrative is, the climate crisis is really, really bad, and what we need to do is try harder. Those sort of books. It's like, and what you sort of get re-descriptions of the problem, and The Guardian's full of it. I don't know why I read The Guardian anymore, but anyway, it says, the climate crisis is really bad, so we need to do something about how bad the climate crisis is, which is to tell the government that the climate crisis is really bad, and that will show that it's really bad, and then it will get better. Those sort of paragraphs. It's like, kill myself. Right. Anyway, as you can see, I'm not over impressed with all that stuff. So I don't want to give the impression that this book is another book saying, it's really bad and we all need to just go and sit in the road or something. Like what I was trying to do, as I think most of you know, right? I was in this trial, got 5-year sentence, went off to Norfolk, got my room, got my laptop, fantastic. So I wrote this book in about 5 weeks. I didn't have any notes really. It was just like in my head. And basically what I was trying to do was just go, look, that's really mad, that's really mad, that's really mad. And so the whole thing's mad. I mean, it's something really different. So it was just like clearing the ground. The book's not really like a manifesto. It's more like, it's just a spasm of negativity, right? It's just saying it's all rubbish. And there it is. And in the last chapter, I talk about 2 things a little bit, which I'll talk about a little bit more, because obviously you all know it's all fucked and everything, right? So we don't need to talk about that. What we need to talk about is what comes next and what needs to happen, I suppose. And what I'm trying to get at is what comes next and what needs to happen has to be fundamentally transgressive, right? Fundamentally transgressive of the whole fucking thing, right? Which includes the left. God help us, you know what I mean? It's like, there's so many things wrong. And this is the worst possible time to actually say this, because as we know, what happens before things go to shit is people double down on the stupidities of the present moment. And this is the moment we're in. So I have zero expectations of anyone taking any notice of this book. It's just written out there for for beyond time and space or something. So I want to maybe in a slightly inadequate way sort of focus on the 2 things I write about after that passage, which is a cultural revolution and some other revolution, forgotten what I called it now, but metaphysical revolution. But I think what I'm trying to get people to understand, right, is that the most rational people in our society are the most absolutely fucking stupid people in the history of the world, right? Like these court cases, we pretend, the movement pretends that they're just making a little mistake. They're not making a little mistake. They're the most stupid fucking people in the history of the world. Because you go into the court case and you go, hello, objectively, the world's about to collapse and that's really bad. So obviously we're justified on closing down the M25 for 2 days. Like obviously, there's no debate. And they go, no, climate change is irrelevant and we're hyper-rationalists and we're listening to Lord Hoffman who says you can't go against the state. And it's like, it's suicide inducing. You know what I mean? It's because we've had 200 years of enlightenment where we've all been brought up in this culture that if you sit down and you think properly, you come up with like rational things. That is not how the human works. The human is incapable of sustained rational thought, right? It just is. And this is why you're sort of laughing, right? Because you're thinking, oh, that's not what I've been told. I've been told, that, the elites, they're a little bit of a problem, but if you give them good information, they're going to go, oh, yeah, it's cool. Well, we'll get rid of climate for you. And it's like, no, they won't, because humans are not capable, particularly when they're engrossed in power formations, of actually doing anything vaguely sensible. In fact, they become extremely pathological, and it happens over and over and over again. So we're just burdened with this enlightenment nonsense, right? That somehow we're going to convince these people. We're not. And the issue is not the people. The issue is the obsession with rationality, right? This is the problem. And this is why lawyers drive me mad. Hopefully there's not many lawyers there. But lawyers they'll come along and say, oh, if you try this and you try that, you'll convince them. And it's like, no, you won't. They're not. It's just not going to happen. So really, what I'm trying to do is clear the ground and say that rationality itself is a problem because humans can't really deal with it. And there's, the big subplot here is complexity, which they sort of draw upon. And complexity, everyone goes, oh, complexity, that's interesting. It's like, no, complexity leads to extinction, right? Complexity basically destroys the ability of humans to think straight for a whole bunch of reasons. Like, one of the main reasons is, I won't want to go through it all, you can ask me if you want me to go on about it a bit more, but the thing that, the big problem we've had is like degrees of connection. You know what I mean? Like, if I kill this person here, it's like, here I've got this, I'm stabbing this person, nothing, no disrespect, and I kill the person. It's pretty clear, right? There's me, there's that person, I've killed them, right? That's one degree of connection. The problem in the world is not people killing each other with daggers in one degree. The problem is the whole world is clearly killing itself all the time through every single connection that we make. You see what I'm saying? Like you're going to get on the tube afterwards, you're killing people, right? We're not in a medieval situation where even if you wanted to kill the world, you couldn't because you've just got like a fork. You see what I mean? You run around with a fork. You try and kill as many people as possible, but you just don't get round everyone, do you? Well, with us, every moment of our lives, effectively, we're honest with ourselves, we're basically killing the world because everything's connected unless you're some weird hippie like me who used to be in Wales and grow vegetables or something. And what that does is it creates what happened with the Nazi regime, right? Which is the human psyche cannot cope with continually being told that it's killing lots of people. So then that's how you become desensitized, right? So this is happening in a sort of hyper way now with Trump. You know what I mean? Like, because Trump comes out with all this bullshit every single day. And you know how it is. You just read the paper, oh, Trump's going to invade Iran. Oh, never mind. Because you're just used to it. And that's what the Nazis did, right? It's like death by 1,000 cuts. It's like the narrative, you just use this narrative. The biggest resistance to the Nazis was in 1934. That's when they started out and they over-egged the pudding, and they said you should boycott Jews, and lots of people came out and did something about it. But by the time you get to 1943, no one's doing anything because everyone's so desensitized. It's like, oh, you're going to kill 6 million Jews. It's like, oh, well, never mind, sort of thing. You see how this works. And, like there's this... what's it called? This insurance report, saying 4 billion people are going to die at 3 degrees. Like, oh, really? The Guardian had it on paragraph 5 of their article. It wasn't the head article. I'll just tell you, it's so morbidly hilarious. But the article, the headline in the article, does people notice? The headline in the article was, there's a chance, words to the effect, there's a chance there's going to be a 50% reduction in GDP. And obviously, being good members of the bourgeoisie, we're all going, oh, that's a bit upsetting, I might lose my mortgage. But then you read down to paragraph 5. It's, oh, yeah, and also 4 billion people are going to die. Subtext, they're not going to be white, so you don't need to give a shit. See what I mean? The Guardian doesn't give a shit. Right? The liberal class doesn't give a shit. No disrespect to North London liberals, but I don't like you. In so much as any of you are. I don't think you are. You're like, oh, you're a North liberal. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the complexity problem. But you see what I mean? Like, this is not a matter of voting Labour. It's not a matter of voting Green, God forbid, right? We're all going to die whether the Green Party wins the election or not. I'm not saying that because I'm being bitchy. I'm saying it because it's just analysis, right? We're going to go over 2 degrees, right? The tipping points are going to happen. If we're going to survive, we need like a complete metaphysical transformation. And lots of people are saying this on the edge of the social space, including a lot of right-wing people. But obviously, they've got their own agenda. But at least they're actually getting somewhere. Like the problem with the left is they're still stuck, you know what I mean, in this rigidity of rationality. Anyway, so I think like there's two solutions. So the first thing is, in so much as humanity is capable of surviving the next 100 years, it's going to be by re-engineering the processes of creating rationality. And as I said in one of those, in the extracts, the problem at the moment is that rationality becomes a herding mechanism. So the public, the press, the media, you know how it works, right? It all sort of combines together, and everyone just carries on doing the same thing. And that's what's called like herding in various literatures. And so what you need to do is create a circuit breaker, right? So if people know about risk analysis, there's an article by George Monbiot today in The Guardian, and I still read The Guardian, but anyway, it was a reasonable article where he's saying like, the food system, there's no circuit breaker, right? Everyone understand that. So the big circuit breaker is sortition. So sortition is where you select people randomly. I'm sure many of you know it. And everyone thinks it's a cool idea. But it's not because it's a cool idea. It's because it's a circuit breaker. Because chance is not herdified. You see what I mean? There's no consciousness. What chance does is it selects people outside the existing system, and they all come together. That's point one. Number two, they deliberate freely, like Habermas said, right? So that's like the big discovery. If you allow people to deliberate freely, then there's a good chance they're going to come up with something sensible, right? And then thirdly, obviously it has to have constitutional power. So basically that's the political program for the revolution, right? Sortition, deliberation, and legally binding outcomes. And I think a lot of people sort of know that, or they're starting to get their head around it. I talked to a whole load of your party people here, just didn't get it. But anyway, that's another story. But the more transgressive idea is you're just going to have to give yourself to God. Sorry, I'm just going to tell you, you're just going to have to give yourself to God. And we've had 200 years where people bringing the word God into the public space has been like either weird or just embarrassing, right? And I'm fucked off with that. Because if you're a rationalist, when well done, you just fucked the world up. So just create a little bit of humility and say, if someone wants to talk about God in the secular space, then just let them do it, right? I mean, if people can talk about 101 other anthropological traditions, right? Why can't we? And just for the record, I'm as atheist as most of you, right? I mean, if you say God exists, obviously it doesn't exist. Or if it did, it'd be necessary to rebel against him. It's their anarchist routine. That's not what I'm talking about, right? What I'm talking about is the reconceptualization of how you think about what you know. You see what I mean? We've all been told what you know is whether it is or it isn't. There's 101 other ways of knowing. There's intuition, there's sense, there's revelation, there's trauma, there's all these different ways of knowing. And if you don't want to engage with them, then you're not going to be human. You certainly are going to burn out in no time, right? And what the whole God paradigm produces, of course, is transcendence. And transcendence is essential as a circuit breaker, right? Because if you're in this empire of reason, right, then you can't escape bitterness and being fucked up and the whole trauma of bad people doing bad things to bad people and people doing more bad things to more people. So, for instance, like, without sounding too weird, if the police come in, in a minute, which they could well do, of course, no, don't panic, but, and arrest me because I'm not supposed to say anything tricky, and if they put me in prison for 20 years, right, I'm going to be pretty pissed off for about 3 days and then I'm going to be fine. Why is that? Because I'm a transcendent person. I really don't give a fuck about material reality. I'm going to be dead in 15 years, right? What I'm interested in is the ecstasy of universal consciousness. I mean, it's really cool. I'm not interested in whether the room's locked. You see what I'm saying? because I've been training on this for 20 years, and I've been to prison 7 or 8 times. It really doesn't make any difference. And this is what is needed to do the revolution, right? And we have to get out of this ridiculous notion that the real is real. It's not. It's fucking not, okay? It's wrong. Read some quantum physics, for God's sake, right? There's no time and space. There's no material, right? There's nothing. It's just flow in a field. We're free. We can do what we like. We can say anything. You can do what you like. The world doesn't collapse. You can go out there and scream your head off and take your clothes off. The world does not fall in. And the reason why we don't succeed is there's just a chronic inability to do stupid things. You see what I'm trying to say? And this is, at the moment, we're all proto-revolutionaries, or at least some of us are. But at some point in the next 10 years, everyone's going to explode into like a mental breakdown. And the people that come out of it will be like us or me or other people, right? In other words, they'll make that transition from despair to ecstasy. I've been saying this for a while, and everyone ignores me, and I don't really care. But like, that's what I'm trying to say. Right, and maybe a little bit of your mind, it's a little bit at the back of your mind going, yeah, I sort of know what he means. But that little bit at the back of your mind will be at the front of your mind, right? And it all comes through the trauma of despair. And we all despair, right? But the whole idea is you go through it, you keep going, don't stop, you know what I mean? Don't take a day off, just do it. Anyway, there's people a lot wiser than me that can talk about that sort of thing. But the last thing I want to try and say is I don't want to give the impression, right, that you should all come to Housman's next week and start reading spiritual books. Spiritual books are shit, right? They're shit, aren't they? Because they just go, the world's really bad, and so we should try to be transcendent, and just go on a retreat and it'll be fine. It's the most obscene bollocks in the world, right? It's like there's a fucking, people are dying, right? You should call yourself religious and you're into love and you're not a revolutionary. Well, you're obviously a complete dick, as far as I'm concerned, right? I hate all that shit. I was brought up a Methodist, and when I was 18, I was sitting on the pews and I was anarchist, and I was just saying, this is such pure shit. You know what I mean? I was just wanted to kill them all. I hate churches with a vengeance. I joined this Christian anarchist group, and we used to write articles saying burn down the churches, and then I got into trouble. But that's that tradition. I am not talking about that. But I'm not talking about, we're all going to be revolutionaries, and as soon as people get shot, we're going to shoot the bad guys, because that's so fucked as well. You see what I mean? So I'm trying to get towards conceptualizing what it is to be a spiritual revolutionary, because you've got to have both if the human race is going to survive. I'm sure better people than me will work it out in about 10 years. But I'm just John the Baptist, as someone called me the other day. We're waiting for the main guy or woman. Anyway, on that slightly embarrassing note, I'm going to stop. Bye.